Hello, my name is Kate, and I will be leading a short trauma-informed yoga practice. And I want to begin with a disclaimer that I have not been formally trained in the practice of trauma-informed yoga. This is a practice that I'm taking directly from overcoming trauma through yoga. This is by David Emerson and Elizabeth Hopper. And about halfway through the book, they have a recommended practice, and I will be taking a few poses from this today. And the first invitation is that whatever you need to do to be comfortable is always welcome. If there's a pose that I suggest that does not call to you, that does not feel good in your body, please feel free to skip it. Maybe go back to a pose that you did like and hold it again, or even just finding a nice comfortable seat here and waiting until I go to the next posture. There's also an open invitation to either keep the eyes closed or open, depending on how that makes you feel within your own body. Sometimes things can get a little heavy when we go too deep into the body, so the invitation is always there to open the eyes, to find something physical in the room to connect with, to bring your awareness back to, and to almost use as a place of comfort. And so today I have a yoga mat. You do not need one for this practice, but if you have one, sure, you can bring it out. Some carpet would also be fine. If you're practicing on a hard floor, maybe just having a blanket, something that gives you a little bit of cushion, a little bit of softness. I also have a few yoga blocks. So if you have those, you're welcome to use them. Otherwise, sometimes 2 books of the same size can be good. You can also just use pillows depending on what pose we're doing. And then I do have a blanket nearby in case there is at any point in time that I want to cover myself. That invitation is there for you as well if you're feeling a little exposed. So today we'll begin in a seated posture. And I'm just going to start here with my legs crossed at the ankle. My knees are out in front. And if this pose is a little difficult for you to get into and you're feeling like your knees are a little up too high, you can either place a block underneath the sit bones in order to bring the sit bones up higher, or you can use your pillow or a cushion. So I'm going to choose to use a block today. So I'm going to slide that underneath my sit bones, kind of letting my hips come up a little bit above my knees here. And again, invitation to close the eyes or leave them open. And we're just going to begin noticing our breath. And that's it, just noticing it. So noticing if it is deep, if it is shallow, if it's fast, if it's slow. Are we breathing through our nose? Are we breathing through our mouth? And throughout the class, I will give cues on points in which it may be helpful to inhale or exhale, depending on what we're doing. The choice is always yours to breathe as you wish, particularly if you'd like to breathe through your nose or through your mouth. That invitation is always open to you. So again, just noticing the breath right now, noticing where it's at. Just sort of taking a type of inventory of the breath. And then we'll begin to connect the breath with a little bit of movement. So this is going to be a very, very simple movement just to demonstrate how connecting the inhales and the exhales to certain types of movement just simply allow us to find a deeper expression of each pose. So for now, placing the hands on the thighs in front of you, or the knees, upper thighs, just anywhere on the legs out in front of you, wherever might feel good. And on your next inhale, go ahead and just lift the hands until the elbows come to a 90-degree angle. Exhale, you can place the hands back down on your legs. We'll do that a few more times. So inhale, raising the hands. Exhale, lower them back down. Inhale, raise one more time. And exhale, lowering back down. So with keeping that breath to movement connection in mind, we'll go ahead and start taking this a little further into our practice. So we'll begin with some neck rolls. So the idea here would be that we want to inhale as we are drawing our nose upward, and exhale as you draw it downward. So you can begin in whatever direction feels good to you. We'll change directions about halfway through, so choose whether or not you want to start tipping your head to one side or the other. But we'll go ahead and take an inhale, and then exhale, just let the nose fall straight towards the ground. And then on the inhale, start to bring that one of your ears towards the shoulder in the direction you chose to start with. Inhaling. And then with the exhale, drawing the opposite ear towards opposite shoulder. And I like to imagine that I'm drawing a circle with my nose here. So if I had a little bit of paint dipped onto the front of my nose and there was a canvas in front of me, I'm just drawing gentle circles, inhaling as I draw upwards, exhaling as I draw down. We'll take a few more circles here. Inhale, and exhale downwards. And one more in this direction. Inhale upwards, and exhale down. And then we'll reverse our direction. So inhale, going the opposite way now. And exhale, letting the chin fall towards the chest. Inhale, drawing the nose up. Exhale, the chin drops towards the chest. And a few more circles here. Inhaling upwards and exhaling down. And then one more wherever you're at. So inhale, coming up. And then exhale, we'll come back to a neutral position with the neck and the head. And so from here, we will move on to making some circles with our shoulders. So again, we're always going to be allowing this breath to guide this movement. So again, we can just keep our hands on our legs and our lap. And on the next inhale, go ahead and start to gently bring the shoulders up towards the ears, and then drawing them backwards. Exhale, back, shoulder blades down the spine. If it feels good to lift the hands up off the thighs during this, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, just keeping the hands down. Inhaling as you draw the shoulders up and back, and then exhaling them down the spine. So inhaling up, exhaling down. One more time in this direction. Inhale up and exhale down, and then we'll reverse the direction. So inhale, drawing the shoulders up and back, and then exhale forward and down. So making circles in a forward direction this time. Always inhaling up, exhaling down. And again, maybe inviting that curiosity with the breath to either breathe from the nose or the mouth, whatever feels good. If you have your eyes closed, maybe test it out with them being open. If they are open, maybe test it out being closed. And if at any point you feel that that is not serving you, or you feel unsafe, just go back to what you were doing previously. And then we'll come to a moment of stillness. And just again, check in with our body. So noticing how we're feeling, noticing the breath, any sensations that are coming up for you. Maybe taking this opportunity to decide if you want to continue this practice or not. and knowing that it is always more than welcome for you to bow out before this practice video ends. And so from here, we're going to slowly move into a pose that is called child's pose. So there's a few different ways that I will offer this, so you can choose whichever feels best for you. And the first way that I'll offer is to just come to sit back on your heels. Your toes are untucked here. And then you can gently start to bow your body over your legs, letting the crown of the head come touch the mat. And then you can let your arms come down to either side. Your hands are reaching towards your hips and your palms are facing upwards. So this is the first invitation. If it feels good to cover yourself with a blanket, that's invited. Another variation of this pose that may feel better for you is a little bit more of a stretch within the hips. So we're going to bring our knees out towards the wide edge of the mat. If you don't have a mat, you're just going to make a slight V shape. The tops, or with your knees being the top of the V. Your toes are touching behind you. And then from here, you can go ahead and start to bring the torso down towards the earth and walk your hands slowly out in front of you. And then we'll begin to rest our forehead on the mat. A really good option for this is to grab your pillow if you have one nearby, and go ahead and just place that between your thighs and letting your belly rest on it. And so whichever variation you chose, just go ahead and settle into that. And again, noticing where the breath is at. And playing with the curiosity of your eyes being open or closed. If anything feels uncomfortable and you'd like to make any adjustments, knowing that that is always open. And otherwise, we'll pause here for just a few moments and hold this pose. Again, always feeling free to come out of it sooner than I instruct, if you find that it is not serving you. Maybe taking a moment to notice how your breath is moving in this pose. Maybe you feel your belly expanding out, pushing against your legs. And with your exhale, just noticing how your belly draws in towards your spine. Just taking a few more breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, if you'd like to stay for a little longer, maybe you could pause the video. Otherwise, we'll begin to look forward, and then we'll start to walk our hands back towards our body. If you did use a pillow for that pose, just go ahead and move it to the side. And then we'll just take a moment to sit here, just kind of letting our blood flow sort of reintegrate to being upright again, and taking another moment to check in with how we're feeling, offering ourselves a moment just to reflect. And then the next posture that we will take is going to be a seated forward fold. So again, we have a few different variations and options here for you to choose whichever feels best. So I'm going to go ahead and move my blocks a little closer just so that I can reach them in case I want them. And then we'll come to find a seat. And with this forward fold, we want to be comfortable. We don't want to push ourselves too far. So a few different options that you can do is maybe placing some blocks under the backs of the knees. so that you can invite this nice gentle bend. You could also use your pillow to do that, so maybe placing a pillow under the back of the knees. Just create a nice soft space for the back of the thighs here. And with our forward fold, the first thing that we want to remember is that we would like to reach our heart towards our feet and knees first, before we round out the top of our spine. And this is just something that simply helps protect your physical low back from injury. But if this feels good, just exactly where you are in this seated posture, you're more than welcome to stay right here, maybe placing the hands on the thighs or knees. If you'd like to go a little deeper, reaching the chest towards the knees, you can maybe grab onto your shins or calves. And if it feels good, you want a little bit more, you could go ahead and reach a little further, maybe grabbing onto the ankles. And then whenever you've gotten to a place that you are comfortable staying for a few breaths, that is when we can go ahead and let the crown of our head fall. Just really relaxing into this pose. Knowing if at any point it feels too intense or uncomfortable, that you're more than welcome to walk your hands back up your legs and just come to a seated position. And again, just bringing some awareness to our breath, just noticing where it's at. Noticing if we're breathing into our chest or our belly. Maybe noticing if we're breathing through our mouth or our nose, and maybe even playing around with some of those different ways to breathe, and just finding what feels good for you, knowing that this is just a curious practice and you're more than welcome to explore all of the options in front of you. And then we'll go ahead and begin to walk our hands back towards us if we are in a folded position. And then just coming up to sit here. And again, taking inventory of the body, just noticing how we're feeling and where we're at. And if you did use blocks or a pillow, maybe just take a second to go ahead and move that over. And then our next pose that we'll take is called boat pose. So again, this is a pose with many variations that we can try out here. So I'll give you a few choices, and you can either do what I'm doing, or you can take any of the options that are available for you. So boat pose is one that's going to be fully supported by the core. It's kind of a core driven pose. This is really good just for activating. And there's a few, again, like I said, different variations that you can have, but you want to first start with your feet on the ground, knees bent, our sit bones are on the floor. And we'll begin with a nice upright posture with the spine. And so first variation I'll offer is for you to gently grab the front side of your shins just below the knees. And then you'll gently just extend your arms until they're straight, but keeping your spine nice and long. So this is a nice supported boat. Maybe activating in the core, so squeezing the belly. And you can pause right here. If you'd like to lean a little further back, you're invited to place your hands on the back side of your thigh. And again, really bringing some activation into the core here. Extending the arms straight, keeping the toes on the floor. And the next invitation here is that you can maybe lift one foot and see how that feels. Place it back down, and then we can lift the other foot, see how that feels. Place it back down. And if we'd like to just stick with the variation of toes on the ground, you're more than welcome to. We'll hold this pose for a few more breaths. Otherwise, your last invitation will be to raise the toes, You can hold your thighs, or you can extend the hands straight out. And we'll hold for a few breaths. And then on your next inhale, gently using your hands to pull you back upright. And then exhale, just let the knees gently fall out towards the side, making kind of a large diamond shape in front of you. And we'll just pause here for a few breaths. We won't fold over anything, just kind of sitting upright, just allowing a release in that front hip crease in our legs. And then our next posture we take is going to be bridge pose. So this is a pose that we will do from the ground. So we're going to go ahead and lie back with our backs on the ground. And this is a pose that if you feel a little cold, maybe a little exposed, anything of that nature, you are more than welcome to grab a blanket and just drape it over you. But we're going to come ahead and lie down on our back, so you can use your hands to hold down to your knees until you're gently all the way on the ground. And our feet are going to be flat on the ground. And in terms of keeping our back in a safe position, maybe just take a moment to reach your hands down and see if you can just barely graze the back of your heels. And if you can, you know that you're in a nice, safe position to support your spine in this pose. So before we take the expression of the pose, we're just going to take a moment here to integrate being on our backs. So just taking inventory, noticing how any sensations that are coming up. If anything is feeling uncomfortable and you would like to skip this pose, you're more than welcome to. If you'd like to cover yourself with a blanket, that's always an invitation, especially in these supine postures, or postures where we're lying on our backs. So taking just another moment here, really settling into this new position within our body. And then if you'd like to take the next expression of bridge, you're going to go ahead and place your hands on the mat down near your feet and hips, and then gently pressing into our hands for support, we'll begin to lift the hips. So if you only lift them about an inch or two off the ground, that's wonderful. That's a great, great, great bridge pose. If you'd like to take it a little bit further, you can lift your hips up until your knees and hips and shoulders are kind of in one line together. If that feels good and you want a little bit more, you can shimmy the shoulders underneath the spine, and then maybe holding your own hands beneath you, pressing the hips upwards. So any variation of this pose, whatever's feeling best for you today. And one last invitation is you can use your pillow, your block, or your books, and place it just beneath your sacrum, so that very, very last part of your spine. If that feels nice, sometimes to have that bit of support kind of allows the front body and the back body to be able to relax into this pose. So whatever variation you've chosen, we'll stay here for just a few breaths. Inhaling and exhaling, again with that curiosity, maybe playing around with our gaze, eyes open or eyes closed. Always sort of using this sense of touch and go, and maybe just touching something, and if it doesn't work for you, going back to what does. And so with your next exhale, you can slowly start to lower the hips back towards the earth, one vertebrae at a time, until the spine is all the way on the earth again. And then just kind of taking a moment to notice how you're feeling in your body, just checking in. And then our very last pose that we'll take is called Shavasana, which is just our final resting pose. So one where we allow ourselves to fully relax And there's a few different variations for this as well, just depending on what you're kind of feeling, maybe if you have any physical limitations in the body. So I'll go ahead and show you the first just full expression of Shavasana. Would just be to extend your feet outwards. Your hands are lying on the ground, just facing upwards. And shoulders are slightly drawn down the spine. And then again here, you can invite yourself to play with eyes closed or open, whatever feels best. And then a few options for variations here if you do have any blocks or books or a pillow. Sometimes it feels good to place those underneath the backs of the knees. And this can just take a little bit of pressure off your low spine. Just make it a little more comfortable. If you have another pillow or maybe like a rolled blanket or something, you can place that behind your head. And then again, if it's a little chilly, you have another blanket that you'd like to draw over you, that's welcome as well. And another invitation, you can place one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly, maybe both hands on top of the hip points. And maybe even just taking a moment to explore all of these options and find what feels best for you today. And then we'll lie here for several breaths. We'll hold this pose a little longer than we did our other poses, as we'd like to allow our body a time to rest and integrate this practice. But again, always knowing that if whatever pose we're in is not serving us, you're more than welcome to come out and end your practice early. Again, the choice for the eyes to be open or closed is yours. Invitation for playing around and being curious with these different options is yours. And then we'll bring our awareness back to our breath again, just noticing where it's at. Noticing how it feels, how it sounds. Maybe remembering what it was like to notice your breath at the beginning of practice compared to now. Just taking a few more breaths here, wherever you're at. We'll slowly start to exit this pose and make our way back into an upright position. So if you do have a blanket, you can either place that blanket off to the side, or you can take it with you, maybe draping it around your shoulders. If you have a pillow under your head or your knees, just taking a moment to gently move that to the side. And then from here, there's a few different ways that we can come out of our Shavasana, final resting pose, is we can either bring our feet to the mat, so with our knees bent, and just pause here for a moment. You could gently roll over to your left or your right side, whatever feels best. If you are going to continue to lie on your back, you could bring your knees gently in towards your chest and offer yourself a hug, maybe wrapping your arms around your legs. If you are on your right or your left side, just gently push yourself upwards off the floor into an upright position. If you're on your back, we're going to take a slight roll to get upwards, so using our momentum. So maybe swinging your feet up above your head and then roll forward, finding yourself upright. And then we'll try to take the similar pose that we did at the beginning of our practice. So I'm going to use one of my blocks again. And then coming to a nice upright seated posture. I'm gonna cross my feet. I have my left foot in front of my right. You can just cross one ankle over the other, whatever feels best. And then we'll take a moment to just take one last inventory of the breath and of the body. And just noticing where we're at. I'm playing with the eyes open. I'm also playing with the eyes closed. Just giving yourself that invitation to be curious. And then as we close our practice, we'll take a couple of breaths with intention. So inhaling in and exhale. And playing with the nose or the mouth. I hope you all enjoyed your practice. I hope you felt safe. I hope you felt that you were in control. And I hope you felt a sense of playful curiosity. Thank you very much, and namaste.